Don't scroll. Don't move. Just stay here for a second. You weren't supposed to find this by accident. You think it's random, right? That you just stumbled on this message like any other. No. This one found you. Because maybe you've been asking for a sign. Maybe you've been pretending you're fine. Maybe you've been holding everything together while falling apart inside. And life, it has a funny way of answering in whispers, not shouts. This is one of those whispers, the kind that shows up when you've almost stopped believing anyone's listening. Nothing in life is truly accidental. People like to believe in coincidence because it's easier than accepting that everything might actually mean something. It makes them feel safe. The idea that things just happen without reason, without weight. But deep down, you can feel it, can't you? That strange pull when certain moments align too perfectly. When someone enters your life out of nowhere and changes everything. When you miss one turn and it leads you exactly where you needed to be. You tell yourself it's random, but it never really is. Every detail, every delay, every detour, it's all part of something you don't see yet. You think you're wandering, but maybe you're being guided. Maybe the things that felt like mistakes were directions written in a language only time can translate. You call it bad luck when you lose something, but later, you realize it made room for something better. You call it heartbreak when someone leaves, but maybe they were never meant to stay. You call it pain when things fall apart, but maybe they had to break for you to finally see clearly. People underestimate the patterns in their own lives. They think the universe is silent, that it's indifferent. But look closer. The signs are everywhere. The right song at the right time. The stranger who says exactly what you needed to hear. The opportunity that shows up right after you gave up. You can call it fate, destiny, energy, alignment. Doesn't matter. What matters is none of it's random. It's orchestration disguised as chaos. Every piece, every person, every event is connected in a way your mind can't yet understand. The funny thing is, we only call it coincidence when we don't like giving up control. It's easier to say, just happened, than to admit maybe something bigger is at play. Because if it's not random, then maybe your choices, your pain, your timing, all of it, actually matter. And that's terrifying. It means you can't just shrug things off anymore. It means there's purpose even in the mess. That every loss carried a lesson, every delay carried protection, every heartbreak carried direction. Think about it. The people you've met, the ones who stayed, the ones who left. The jobs you didn't get, the moments that broke you. They all changed you in ways you didn't see then. Maybe the wrong turn was actually the only one that could lead you here. Maybe the person who hurt you wasn't a curse, but a catalyst. Maybe the door that slammed in your face was never meant to open, because there was another one waiting. The one that was yours all along. Nothing in life is accidental, because even your chaos has choreography. Life doesn't waste moments. Every event pushes, bends, shapes you into who you need to be for what's coming next. You can't see the pattern when you're in the middle of it. It looks like noise, like randomness. But when you look back, the puzzle starts to fit. The people you lost made space. The silence taught you to listen. The rejections built resilience. The heartbreak built understanding. Every thread, every scar, every choice. It's all part of a design you only understand after the storm. The hardest part is trusting it while it's happening. When life's falling apart, it doesn't feel like meaning. It feels like chaos. You question everything. You beg for answers. You think you're lost. But sometimes losing direction is exactly how you find alignment. Because life doesn't send clarity first. It sends confusion. It shakes your plans, tests your patience, burns your comfort. That's how it prepares you. Because only when everything feels uncertain do you start paying attention to the signs you used to ignore. Nothing is random. Not the pain. Not the people, not the timing. Even the smallest things carry weight. A delayed train, a random conversation, a missed call. They all fit into something bigger. You might not see it now, but one day, you'll look back and realize it had to happen exactly that way. If you had arrived sooner, met them earlier, made a different choice, the chain would have broken. Life's timing isn't off, it's deliberate. It waits until you're ready, even when you think you are. People say, everything happens for a reason, like it's just a phrase. But it's not just comfort. It's truth. The reason isn't always clear, and it's rarely convenient, but it's there. The universe doesn't waste pain. It doesn't waste effort. It doesn't waste people. Every soul you meet, every storm you face, every silence you sit through, it's all moving you somewhere. Sometimes forward, sometimes inward. The trick is learning to see the meaning without needing proof. To trust that the missed chances, the lost people, the broken plans, they weren't accidents. They were instructions. You don't need to understand the why right away. You just need to stay open long enough for it to reveal itself. Because the moment you start paying attention, you realize that nothing, absolutely nothing, in your life has been random. Every heartbreak, every loss, every coincidence, it was all written to bring you here. Signs appear when you're ready to see them, not before. You can be surrounded by meaning, whispers from the universe, hints in every direction. But if your eyes aren't open, you won't notice a thing. That's how life works. It hides its messages in plain sight, waiting for you to wake up. You think there are no signs because you're too distracted, too consumed by the noise, too busy trying to control everything. But the truth is, the signs were always there. You just weren't ready to understand them yet. Life doesn't reveal its secrets to everyone at once. It waits. It waits until you've been broken enough, quiet enough, desperate enough to start listening. People want answers right away. They want clarity, they want direction, they want guarantees. But signs don't come when you demand them. They come when you surrender. When you stop trying to make sense of everything and just start feeling it. Because signs aren't logic. They're alignment. They don't shout. They whisper. and only the ones who've learned how to listen will ever hear them. It's funny how people always say, "Give me a sign," as if life owes them proof. But when the sign comes, they doubt it. They rationalize it. They ignore it. They convince themselves it's coincidence. Because deep down, they're not ready to follow where that sign leads. They want certainty without sacrifice, direction without discomfort. But signs don't work like that. They're not meant to make you comfortable. They're meant to shake you, to nudge you towards something you're too afraid to chase. Sometimes the sign isn't what you want. It's what you need. It's the door that closes, the person who leaves, the silence that stretches too long. You see it as rejection, but it's redirection. You see it as loss, but it's protection. Signs rarely arrive wrapped in beauty. They arrive disguised as endings, chaos, or coincidence. But once you start looking back, you realize every one of them was guiding you somewhere better. The problem is, people only recognize signs when they match their expectations. If it hurts, they call it bad luck. If it feels easy, they call it destiny. But life doesn't follow your definitions. It follows truth. Signs don't appear to convince you. They appear to challenge you. They show up to test your faith, to ask if you're really ready to move. Because a sign without action is useless. The universe can point the way, but it won't walk for you. It gives you the signal, the push, the moment. And then it watches what you do with it. Most people see the signs, feel the pull, hear the voice inside, and still stay where they are. They say they're waiting for a clearer message, but clarity isn't the problem. Fear is. They don't want signs. They want certainty. And life doesn't hand out certainty. It hands out opportunities wrapped in risk. You'll start noticing how signs come in patterns. When something or someone keeps repeating, a number, a phrase, a situation, that's not random. That's alignment trying to get your attention. Life doesn't send signs once. It sends them over and over until you finally stop running from them. Every repeated disappointment, every familiar pain, every déjà vu moment, it's all a message. It's saying, you haven't learned this yet. You're still chasing what's not meant for you. And once you finally understand, the pattern breaks. The lesson ends. People expect signs to be mystical, glowing, dramatic, but most of them are quiet, ordinary. What's feeling in your gut? A random song lyric that hits too hard. A conversation that sounds like an echo of your own thoughts. Sometimes the sign is just peace. That strange calm you feel when something's right, even if it doesn't make sense. And sometimes it's chaos. The uneasiness that grows louder every time you try to force something that's not meant to fit. Signs aren't about proof. They're about recognition. You'll know it's a sign when something in you stops arguing, when your mind keeps spinning, but your soul whispers, "This is it." You'll try to dismiss it, to rationalize it away, but it won't leave. It'll follow you, showing up in small ways, in strange coincidences, until you finally pay attention. That's how it works. The universe doesn't shout. It repeats. It keeps sending the same signal until you can't pretend not to see it anymore. The tricky part is that you can't force signs to appear. They don't come when you're demanding, they come when you're receptive. When you stop chasing, when you stop pretending to have control, when you finally say, "All right, I'm listening." That's when everything starts aligning. Because signs don't show up to guide your ego. They show up to guide your evolution. They're not there to make your life easy. They're there to make it meaningful. You'll miss most signs if you're always rushing, scrolling, overthinking. You have to slow down long enough to notice what life is trying to tell you. Every coincidence, every sudden feeling, every door that opens or closes, it's communication. It's not random. It's guidance in disguise. The problem is, you're always too busy looking for loud miracles when the real ones whisper. And when you're finally ready, truly ready, the signs won't confuse you anymore. They'll feel familiar, like something you already knew but forgot. That's because they were never outside of you. They were inside you all along, waiting for the moment you'd stop doubting your own intuition. Because the truth is, signs don't just appear when you're ready to see them. They've always been there. You were just finally ready to believe them. Silence often hides the answers you seek. People hate silence. They fill it with noise, with chatter, with anything that keeps them from hearing what's really inside their own heads. They talk, they scroll, they distract themselves, pretending they're searching for clarity, but what they're really doing is running from it. Because silence doesn't lie. It doesn't comfort you. It doesn't flatter you. It just mirrors back the truth you've been trying to bury. And that's why most people can't stand it. When everything around you gets quiet, that's when the real voice starts to speak. Not the one you use in front of people. Not the one that tells the world you're fine. The one that's buried beneath all the pretending. That voice doesn't need attention. It needs space. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And you can only hear it when the noise stops. But people don't like what they hear in silence because it forces them to confront themselves. Their pain, their emptiness, their fears, their lies. So they turn the volume up on life, hoping to drown it out. It's ironic, isn't it? Everyone says they want answers. They want purpose, peace, direction. But they avoid the only place where those things actually live. You won't find them in the noise. You won't find them in the crowd. You won't even find them in other people. They live in the quiet moments you keep escaping. The silence between chaos, the pause between thoughts. That's where truth hides. And the reason it's hidden there is simple. Not everyone's ready to hear it. Silence has a way of stripping you down. It takes away your distractions, your illusions, your excuses. It makes you sit with what's real. That's the part that scares people the most. Not the silence itself, but what it reveals. You start to notice things. The relationships that aren't as deep as you thought. The dreams that aren't really yours. The parts of you that are still bleeding from wounds you never healed. Silence shows you everything the noise kept hidden. It's not comfortable, but it's honest. And that's why it's powerful. When you learn to sit in silence without running from it, something shifts. You start hearing the truth you've been avoiding. The answers you've been begging for start to surface. Not as words, but as feelings. The gut instincts you ignored, the subtle nudges you brushed off, they all come back. Because silence doesn't give you new information, it gives you clarity. It rearranges the chaos in your head until you can finally see what was there all along. Most people never reach that point. They mistake silence for emptiness, as if nothing's happening. But silence is never empty. It's alive. It's where thoughts take shape, where emotions untangle, where strength builds quietly. The problem is, we've been taught that stillness means weakness. That if you're not moving, you're failing. That if you're not talking, you're lost. But some of the strongest moments in your life happen in silence. When you're alone, when no one's watching, when you're forced to face what's left after everything else falls away. You start realizing that the answers you were chasing were never far away. They were always inside you, buried under layers of noise and fear. Every time you said, "I don't know what to do," what you really meant was, "I'm too afraid to listen." Because deep down, you already knew. The truth doesn't hide from you, you hide from it. Silence just brings it closer, until you can't ignore it anymore. Silence doesn't just reveal answers, it reveals people. You start seeing who can sit with you in stillness and who needs noise to feel important. You notice how some people talk just to fill space, because they're terrified of what quiet might expose. Real ones don't need to perform. They understand the weight of unspoken things. They know silence isn't a lack of connection. It's a deeper kind of understanding. The kind that doesn't need words to feel real. The world conditions you to fear silence. It tells you that if you're quiet too long, you'll fall behind, you'll disappear, you'll be forgotten. But the truth is, silence is where you find yourself again. It's where you remember what actually matters, who you are without the noise. It's the reset button life keeps offering you, but you keep pressing skip because silence feels like nothing's happening, when in reality, everything is. Healing, aligning, rebuilding. You just can't see it yet. There's something sacred about silence. Not the forced kind, not the lonely kind, but the kind that hums with understanding. The kind that wraps around you and says, "No, listen." That's where transformation begins. Because when you stop trying to fill every moment with words and movement, you make space for truth to walk in. You start hearing life differently. The wind, the heartbeat, the pause before you speak. It all starts meaning something. Silence isn't the absence of answers. It's the birthplace of them. It's not empty. It's overflowing with everything you need to know. If only you'd stop long enough to listen. The universe doesn't always speak in thunder. Sometimes it speaks in quiet, in pauses, in stillness. And when it does, it's not trying to confuse you. It's trying to remind you that the noise was never the problem. Your inability to stop and listen was. Because silence often hides the answers you seek. The universe speaks through timing, not words. You think life talks to you in signs or voices or miracles, but it doesn't. It speaks in moments, the right ones, the delayed ones, the missed ones. Timing, that's the real language of the universe. It's how everything connects, how lessons unfold, how people enter and exit your story. But most people don't understand that. They mistake silence for rejection, delay for denial. They think if something doesn't happen now, it's never going to happen. But that's not how life works. It's not saying no, it's saying not yet. You see, timing is cruel when you don't trust it. You meet the right person at the wrong time, and it feels like punishment. You get the opportunity you've been waiting for, but your life's not ready for it, and it slips away. You start to believe life's unfair, that it's playing games with you. But what if it's not? What if it's preparing you? Because timing doesn't care about what you want. It cares about who you've become. It waits until the pieces align, until you've learned enough, until you're strong enough to hold what you asked for. People always say, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. But they forget the second part. Only when it's meant to. There's no point in having something before you can handle it. The universe doesn't give blessings to break you. It gives them to build you. So if something's taking too long, maybe it's not being denied. Maybe it's being designed. You're not late, you're being timed. Life knows exactly when to deliver what belongs to you, even when you've lost faith in its schedule. But humans are impatient creatures. They chase things before they're ready. They try to force doors open. They get angry when time doesn't bend for them. And in doing so, they ruin what was meant for them. You can't rush divine timing. You can't demand a flower to bloom before it's ready. All you can do is water it, tend to it, and trust that one day it'll open. That's how timing works. It rewards patience, not panic. You'll start noticing how everything that ever made sense came down to timing. The job you lost that pushed you towards something better. The person who left, making room for someone who'd actually stay. The delay that saved you from walking into a disaster. You don't see it in the moment because pain blinds you. But later, when the dust settles, you realize it all happened exactly when it needed to. Because timing doesn't just decide when things begin. It also decides when they end. Sometimes, the universe makes you wait not to test you, but to protect you. You think you're ready, but life knows you're not. It knows your heart still needs healing. Your mind still needs clarity. Your soul still needs peace. And if you get what you want too early, you'll destroy it, or it'll destroy you. That's why life holds it back, even when you're begging for it. Because timing doesn't care about your impatience. It cares about your growth. There's a strange kind of beauty in delay. It forces you to slow down, to trust something beyond your control. It makes you pay attention to the process instead of just the outcome. You start learning the difference between chasing and attracting. When you're aligned, you don't need to run after anything. What's meant for you naturally moves toward you at its own pace. And when it arrives, it fits, not because you forced it, but because time prepared both of you for each other. The universe doesn't forget you. It just waits for the moment you're in sync with what you asked for. You can't be out of tune and expect harmony. You can't hold on to your old self and expect new blessings. Timing works in silence, rearranging circumstances, moving people, shifting paths, all for that one moment when everything finally clicks. You think nothing's happening, but behind the scenes, everything is. And when that moment comes, it's never loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just feels right. You won't need to question it, analyze it, or chase it. You'll just know. Because timing doesn't confuse you, it aligns you. Every delay will suddenly make sense. Every no will sound like protection. Every loss will feel like preparation. It's all part of the rhythm. A rhythm you couldn't hear before because you were too busy shouting over it. That's the thing about timing. It's not about how fast you move. It's about when everything lines up. You might be early, you might be late, but the universe is never wrong. It's been working in perfect order since the beginning of time, and you're not an exception. You're just part of the pattern, waiting for your turn. When your time comes, it won't pass you by. You won't need to fight for it, prove yourself for it, or beg for it. It'll just happen. Naturally, effortlessly, inevitably. Because the universe doesn't speak in words. It speaks in timing. Stillness reveals what chaos hides. People are addicted to movement. They run, they chase, they rush, pretending that if they just keep going, they'll find peace somewhere up ahead. But peace doesn't live in motion. It lives in stillness. And that's the one thing most people can't stand. Because when everything stops, the noise, the distractions, the pretending, you're left with yourself. No escape, no filters, no excuses. Just the raw, unpolished truth staring back at you. And that's what chaos helps you avoid. It's loud, messy, exhausting, but safe, because it keeps you from seeing what's really going on inside. When you finally stop running, that's when everything starts to surface. The thoughts you've buried, the pain you've ignored, the feelings you've numbed. Stillness doesn't create them. It just uncovers them. It shows you what chaos has been hiding. All those nights you couldn't sleep, all those fake smiles, all those distractions. They were never about boredom. They were about fear. Fear of sitting still long enough to feel everything you've been trying to forget. You've been taught that chaos means you're alive, that movement equals progress. But sometimes movement is just avoidance with better branding. You can stay busy your whole life and still be lost. You can run in circles and call it ambition. You can build noise around yourself and call it purpose. But stillness doesn't let you lie. It strips away all the noise until you have no choice but to face yourself. And most people can't handle that kind of honesty. Stillness isn't weakness. It's confrontation. It's sitting with your demons and not flinching. It's staring into the parts of yourself you've been